This is Deb Waterbury, and it is my honor and privilege to introduce you to a brand new school being launched by Love Everlasting Ministries. It's a school for widows and destitute women in Africa. It's called the Reap What You Sow Project. Let me tell you about it. I've been traveling to countries in Africa to speak at women's conferences for about 6 years now. And depending on the event, the crowds might range from a couple hundred women to sometimes over 1,000. And often these conferences are attended by women coming from miles from surrounding villages. Many of these women are widows, and for a while I thought they were coming to see me. But then I realized they were bringing their children with them. And they brought their children because meals were included with these conferences. The women and their children, when they were attending, they were fed breakfast and lunch and dinner. And what I began to realize was that not just were these women coming to hear spiritual things and to hear about God, and they were, but they were bringing their children because what they got fed during that week was the most food many of them would see for months. This food is offered because these pastors knew firsthand the plight of the women in their countries, these widows, these destitute women. You see, these countries were decimated by AIDS, by drought, by fires. Malawi was just declared a national disaster area because of the hunger just in the last couple of months by the World Health Organization. And most of the time, the women are the ones left to not only take care of their families, but to take care of all the children in the village. And the culture here is not to allow for women to be able to have a trade, to be able to take care of themselves. And so it became my mission and my desire and my prayer to figure out how Love Everlasting Ministries could serve these women both spiritually and practically. The result of that desire has been the Reap What You Sow project. But even though I knew that helping these women in a practical way was definitely an addition we needed to add to the Love Everlasting Ministries' entire mission, we wanted to be sure that God was in that. So we prayed. I prayed for 3 years. My pastor friends in Africa, they prayed for 3 years. My team, we all prayed. And then eventually, just a few months ago, God made it very, very evident that this was exactly what we were supposed to do. And we knew that because every single door has swung wide open for the Reap What You Sow project. Now, the name of that project is kind of self-explanatory, Reaping What You Sow. We just did a little play on words with SEW versus SOW. But we looked at Hosea 10:12, and we realized this was exactly the message that we wanted to convey. That passage talks about God and how He will furrow through the ground and help us to reap ourselves a harvest if we do so in righteousness. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide these women with practical ways to take care of themselves, but in righteousness, where it is Christ-centered. We're set to launch our very first school. We're very, very excited about it in Blantyre, Malawi in April of 2017. Right now, we have 9 students to begin. We have a board of directors on the ground in Malawi, and we have one here in the States to do all the administration of that. The school is a 6-month program where the women who qualify will be given training on tailoring by a qualified seamstress. And in addition to that, they'll also get 4 weeks of business training in that 6 months by a qualified professional in business. At the end of the 6 months, each graduate will receive the machine that she'd been sewing on, as well as enough fabric and thread to begin her own tailoring business. We're also going to stay connected and committed to each graduate for 6 more months following her course completion so that we can help her get her feet on the ground with her new business. So all in all, we will be connected to each student for 1 year. We've got plans to eventually open schools all over Africa. We want to help widows and destitute women all over that area know the joy of providing for her children and becoming businesswomen in her own right. We currently have sponsorship programs set up for the women here in America to sponsor the women in Africa. We want to be able to connect these women one-to-one, both financially, by prayer, and in many other ways. This is an ongoing initiative. We'd like to continue having schools all year long, one every 6 months. We already have requests for 2 more schools, one in Lilongwe, Malawi, and one in Harare, Zimbabwe, and with other schools requests coming from all over other countries in Africa. We really want it to be our entire goal here, to tie the spiritual to the practical. You know, Jesus, he fed the 5,000, he fed the 4,000 before he spoke to them about who he was. Because we are told that the Bible, that his word is food for the body, but we also know that sometimes it's almost impossible to hear that good news when you're so physically hungry. Those things are tied together. Jesus tied them together, and so we need to tie them together too, helping these people practically feed themselves and feed their children so that they can be fed by the good news of Jesus Christ even more freely and even more with joy. I want to invite you right now to take part in the Reap What You Sow project, an opportunity to help a woman just like you with the same wants, the same desires, but with no way to support either herself or her family. Just a few dollars a month can be all she needs. Log on now to loveeverlastingministries.com, and remember, if we can change the life of a woman, we can change the life of her children, the life of her village, and finally, the life of her nation.